When it comes to comedy, the 80s were a very different time, but the comedy movies of the decade were some of the greatest comedy movies of all time. We are here to count down our favourite from that decade. First, here are the top 10 grossing comedy movies of the 80s. Press that one. Press that. Okay, right, here we go. At number 10, it was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, $130,724,172.
It's a jungle out there.
At number 9 was Look Who's Talking, $140,088,813.
Must be thinking the same thing I am.
Lunch.
At number 8, it was Gremlins, $148,168,459.
Don't ever feed him after midnight.
At number 7 was Beverly Hills Cop 2, $153,665,036.
I have the money and I do want to do business, but with you, I ain't doing nothing in front of this dude because this dude is a cop.
At number 6, it was Three Men and a Baby, $167,960. At number 5, it was Crocodile Dundee, $174,803,506.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
That's a knife. At number 4, it was Tootsie, $177,200,000.
I was a stand-up tomato, a juicy, sexy beefsteak tomato.
At number 3, it was Back to the Future, $223,316,788.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
At number 2, it was Ghostbusters, $229,364,586.
Okay, so she's a dog.
And at number 1, it was Beverly Hills Cop, $234,760,478.
Disturbing the piece I got thrown out of a window.
So there we go. That was the top 10 at the box office. And we'll say goodbye to the music as well, as we have a guest we have to introduce. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, top heads all over the world, will you please welcome TopHead Shannon to the pod? Yay!
Thank you so much.
So how are you, Shannon? Are you all ready and raring to delve into the 80s?
I am. I'm not making any more changes. I'm just not.
We were saying just before we pressed record, I mean, this has been one of the hardest I've had to work. I must have had 50 movies on my original list. Mm-hmm. And it just confirms, I wish I had £1 or $1 for every time I've said this, but the 80s are the greatest decade of all time, whether it's music, whether it's comedy, whether it's comedy movies. It was just so hard to get these movies down to a 10.
Well, in the 80s, I went from 10 to 20. So, I mean, those are the years that made me who I am today, good, bad, and indifferent. And you can tell by my list. But funny, listening to your facts, or the top 10 grossing, only one of mine is on that list.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't forget. It's just, it didn't make my list. And I've been binging these movies, and it's... Yeah,
I don't think I have a single one from the grossing,
really?
Even though things like Ghostbusters and Back to the Future are some of my favorite films. But you'll find from my list, I have a certain type of humor and a certain type of comedy that I absolutely love. And it's and look, I'm going to lay my cards out on the table straight away, okay? The one reason I wanted to do the 80s comedy movies is to talk about my number 6. Okay, so we're not going to get there yet. But I only saw it recently for the first time in a long, long time, and it was one of the greatest times I've had watching a film in the last, 5 years.
Okay.
So it was kind of like there was ulterior motives to do 80s comedy movies because I wanted to talk about this particular movie.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we're going to have at least one. They may not be in the same number, but listening to you and Neil talk, I think one of our movies is going to be in your top 10 and my top 10. And if it's not, I'll be really, really surprised.
Right. Yeah. I reckon there might be more than one. I really do feel there might be more than one. But
my number one has been number one since we decided to do this.
Really?
My number one has not changed at all because it's the number one movie ever, comedy ever. But 2 through 9, like I said, I moved 6 to 2 and 2 to 6 in the last 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll be so glad when this is over. And so will my son. Because I'm like, you have to watch this and tell me if I'm out of my mind. This is funny, right? He's like, and he's 25, and he's like, yeah, okay, if you say it's funny.
See, that was the question I was going to ask. In regards, like in my intro, I said it was a very different time. And I think there's probably 3 or 4 movies that I've got in my top 10 that probably wouldn't get made today. Because
absolutely.
the whole sensibility and I mean, even humor these days. I was trying to think the last, in regards to time-wise, what the last great comedy movie that I saw was. And I can't remember one, especially in like the 2000s or the 2000s. I'm sure someone will come up and say, oh, what about such and such? Maybe Borat. Borat might be the last one that I actually watched and genuinely belly laughed at. But even then...
for me, it was probably... Oh, what's the one with all the it was Bridesmaids. That was pretty funny.
Okay.
But it wasn't 80s funny. Wasn't... It was just... Like, I know a lot of people like the pooping scene. That's not my jam. I'm a lot like being that way. I get it. You guys think it's funny. I didn't find it funny. But I think that's probably the last movie that I'm like, okay, that was really funny.
Right. I have to admit, I've never seen that all the way through. Bridesmaids.
Really?
Yeah. So it'd be kind of interesting to see.
I might have just ruined something.
Oh no, I've seen that scene. I've seen that scene. Yeah, and that is one of those. I think you're right. People either like that kind of comedy, or they don't like watching stuff like that. I mean, I quite like poo comedy or fart. I mean, farting I think is the funniest thing in the world. I genuinely, it doesn't matter who's doing it, what kind of, I don't know if you go on TikTok, but there's this new sensation now, you have to guess my fart. Have you seen that?
No.
So someone says, you go up to, not that I'm saying you should go to a stranger and say this, but if it's somebody that you go up to them and you say, guess my fart. So they then go, okay, and then the person farts, and you got to see if you get it right. You see if you get what sound you bring out your mouth, if it's the same as the fart that the person does. So
that's not where I thought that was going. I thought it was like you had to guess what they ate, or you had to guess.
Oh no,
you've
just got to try and get the sound right for the fart.
That's so funny.
So so that's one of the latest crazes I've seen on TikTok, and I haven't had the nerve to try it to anybody quite just yet, because when you try it. I'm sorry. You've just told me that you don't like that kind of stuff, and now we're talking about farts. I'm terribly sorry, Shannon. I mean, what a great way to start the podcast.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine.
Well, let me just write down, Shannon will not be coming back. She won't want to come back on the pod. Okay, just made that as a note. Okay.
Once you convince Neil to do a Weird Al top 10, you call me.
Yeah, I will do.
I love Weird Al so much. I will do.
It's weird you say that, because I was there's a podcast called, I think it's the Beard Owl podcast, I think it's called, and only last year I started getting into Weird Al. I started listening to I started listening to playlists of his, because I think, like a lot of people that don't really know him, they don't appreciate what an amazing musician he is and his band is. So I was listening to a lot of his stuff, and I thought, my God, some of these songs are like the polka medleys that he does are just amazing. Even just like mechanically and technically, they are just like fascinating. I was listening to like the Hamilton one, and I love Hamilton.
Good.
It's so clever,
so good. And it's not just that he's making these funny songs; he has to make these funny songs, and he has to make them make sense.
Yeah,
and they have to. He just boggles my mind.
Yeah,
I love it so much.
What's the biggest ball of twine? Is it biggest ball of twine in?
It's Minnesota. Isn't
Minnesota,
it?
That's right. That's one of my favorites. It's such a good song.
My favorite is the horoscope song. I love the horoscope song.
Yeah, I've got to get back into putting some of him on my playlist, because he is just so good. But that is a top 10.
I don't know if he plays the UK or not, but if he comes there with his only originals, go see it. Because I took my son a couple years ago. My cat's getting ready to walk in front of the camera.
Okay,
so
don't
let me
worry about
move
that.
him.
I've got my little dog at my feet, so that they can end up fighting each other.
I thought I don't want to hear his originals because I like his parodies so
Yeah.
much, and I had the best time at the concert.
Really?
He's just amazing. Yeah, he's just a great guy. And I cut you off, and I apologize.
No, don't, because I think it would be fun to do a Weird Al. Maybe that's one of the kind of ones we need to do when Neil's on his sabbatical. You see, when Neil's not here.
Yeah,
and
we didn't know he wasn't going to be here.
That's true. That's true. And obviously, hello, Neil. We hope you're
Neil.
resting and recuperating.
I miss your voice.
Oh, bless him.
I have such voice crushes on both of you. I think it's the accent that does it because I'm such an American.
Well, but the thing is, we blow that all out of the water as soon as you see us, Shannon. So
that's not true. So you're both adorable.
Just keep your eyes closed, and that's fine. Which is weird because that's what I say to my wife a lot of the time when we're.
And I bet she says, "Pav, you're the most handsome man I know."
Oh God, I wish she did. I really wish she did. But anyway, we digress again. Let's get into the job at hand, which again sounds like my wife. Yeah. But anyway, let's here we go. 80s comedy movies. So Shannon, give us your number 10, please.
Okay, so when I explain this, you might end the show very quickly.
Okay.
My number 10 is Spaceballs from 1987.
Okay.
I have real mixed feelings about it. I actually just saw Spaceballs for the first time, probably Christmas night. I watched it with my son because everybody's like, 80s movies, you have to have Spaceballs. I've never seen Star Wars. Any Star Wars. I haven't seen the little Baby Yoda TV show. I just haven't seen it for whatever reason. I think if I'd have seen it, Spaceballs would have been much funnier than it was. I appreciate it because it's Mel Brooks, and I had to have a Mel Brooks in my list. I love John Candy. I love Rick Moranis. So I think I missed a lot of the nuance of Spaceballs, but I could see why people love it so much.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I love Mel Brooks, and I love that some of his movies are some of my favourite movies of all time. But I must say, I'm not a fan of Spaceballs. Now, that might be because I'm a big Star Wars fan, but I don't. I love that kind of movie, as you'll find out in my top 10. I love those spoof, stupid movies. But I don't know whether it was because it came out in, what was it, 87? So the whole Star Wars thing had been done for like 4 or 5 years by that point. So it was almost like it was a little bit too late to jump on the Star Wars bandwagon, even though obviously it was a spoof of Star Wars and all of the space movies. It just didn't do anything for me. I just didn't find it funny, which was really strange because I think any kind of parody, I've seen lots of different parodies on YouTube of Star Wars that I find hilarious, but I don't know. It was just something about that. Maybe I need to watch it again. I've only ever watched it once, so maybe I need to watch it again and see if there's any funnier bits in it. But for me, I don't know. I didn't find it particularly funny. So is that something that you normally do at Christmas then? You watch like old 80s movies or?
No.
Oh, right.
No, I knew I was going to be on here, so it was like, we have to watch it.
Oh, right. Okay.
Normally we would be watching Love Actually, or I'd be watching Harry Potter, or it is like, nope, it's 80s. And my son wanted to watch certain, it's like, no, that 80s movie sucks.
Oh,
Which
really?
isn't really fair.
Yeah.
But, and he's like, all right, well, let's watch, you've never seen Spaceballs, let's watch it. And I'm like, all right. And then he watched some that he'd never seen. He's like, okay, that was pretty good.
Well, that's not bad then. It jumped straight into your top 10 then. That's not bad.
Yes, and I think it's only because of the Mel Brooks aspect, because I had to have it. Because if not, it would have been Night Shift, which I love.
Right.
So it was like, no, I have to have again, it was every day. You guys have said this a million times. Tomorrow my list would be completely different.
Yeah.
And I just want to reiterate, this is my list. A lot of people are going to be like, that list really sucks. No, and it probably does.
Your list is absolutely right. We've always said there is never a wrong list. There is never a wrong entry in a list, apart from Neil leaving out the Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters in movie vehicles. That's the only thing that's ever been wrong, and I've never forgiven him for that. But then apart from, but no, everybody's list is correct. So it's it's exactly what you want it to be. So, but that's a great start. Okay, my number 10, starting off with a British film. It's A Fish Called Wanda, from 1988. So this is John Cleese. This is Kevin Kline, who won the Best Supporting Actor for his performance in this. Jamie Lee Curtis, who is hilarious in it. Michael Palin as well. Have you seen this movie?
I have not. Can you believe I have not? I need to see it because I love everybody in it.
Right.
There's no excuse for why I haven't seen it. I just, at 54, I should have seen it, and I haven't.
Yeah,
so.
it's a very clever movie, which you would expect from John Cleese, and he's maybe not dialed up as much as Basil Fawlty, but he is so good in it. There is one scene where he strips for Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis gets turned on by foreign language, a bit like you, Shannon, gets turned on by foreign languages. And he does a strip while he's doing it. And it's a very famous one. He apparently, as you could probably see by his body, he worked out a hell of a lot so that he would look good on camera. And so while he's talking Russian and taking, his underpants off and his socks off, Jamie Lee Curtis is sort of writhing around upstairs, rubbing herself on anything that she can find because she's getting absolutely turned on by John Cleese talking Russian.
Wow.
So it's a really good sort of heist caper kind of movie. Again, Kevin Kline won the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for his performance in it, and he is just a psychopath, but it's so funny. And Michael Palin again plays a stuttering stooge for the main villain. But it's such a good movie that it's a good romp. And I would thoroughly recommend it if you haven't seen it.
It's on my list.
Excellent. It's nice to know you have a list now. This is what we like everybody to have a list. They got homework. Okay, then, Shannon, your number 9 then, please.
So my number 9, and I have to say, I'm just looking through. As a typical American, I have all American movies, so I apologize for that. They are all American.
Yeah.
My number 9 has one of my favorite actors. He'll show his face again earlier or higher up in my list, but it's Johnny Dangerously from 1984. It's a great movie to begin with, but the swearing by Richard Dimitri, is that his name, who played Maroney, the farting ice hole, and you corksucker, and I mean that alone gets it on my list. I rewound it over and over because I just found him so funny. Peter Boyle is great in it. What was his? I can't remember his mother's name, but the fact that they were so oblivious to the fact that he was a mobster through the whole movie, it's like, are you kidding me? It's so obvious. The only part I didn't like about Johnny Dangerously is Mary Lou Retton, no, not Mary Lou Retton. She's a gymnast. No, Mary Lou Henner. That's her name.
Mary Lou Henner. That's right.
I'm not a big fan of hers. She kind of annoys me, but I just think that, again, the swearing alone made that movie perfect for me. I just thought it, and I still will say, you fart an ice hole when I'm driving down the street and somebody annoys me. It just makes me laugh. It's silly and it's just dumb fun.
Yeah. Michael Keaton, of course. This was pre-Batman Michael Keaton, wasn't it?
It was pre-Beetlejuice. It might have been after Night Shift, and I think it was after Mr. Mom.
I think it was.
It might have been before Mr. Mom.
Yeah, it might have been. It might have been. But yeah, I can remember this when this was. Oh god, yeah, Dom DeLuise was in it, and he's one of my absolute favourites. Dom DeLuise. Oh, I just seen that Danny DeVito was in it. I can't remember Danny DeVito being in it.
Yeah, he plays the public defender, I think, or a judge. He's dirty. He's on the take, but they all are except for Griffin Dunn's character.
That's right. Yeah.
It was just such a fun movie, and I revisited it in preparation for this list. And it was
I need to watch that one again. I haven't seen that for ages. It was like a gangster movie, wasn't it? It was like a spoofy kind of gangster movie, but
it was so funny.
Was it Joe Piscopo? That's right. He was the
and he plays such a douchebag.
That's right.
It's so good. It's just, and I just love Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is Batman. He will always be Batman. I will fight anybody that says he's not Batman. But I love him as Johnny Dangerously too.
Yeah,
so.
that is a great one. I honestly had forgotten about that one. I mean, I don't think it would have made my top 10, but that is such a good movie. I need to find that somewhere and watch that again. Oh, that's a great one. Okay, my number 9, we're going into the spoof world again, and we're going for Top Secret, 1984. This was Val Kilmer,
Okay.
and it also had like Peter Cushing was in it, and Omar Sharif was in it, and it's one of those like Zucker brother spoof kind of movies, all about that's World War II. But there are so many great sight gags, and you've got these someone like Peter Cushing or Omar Sharif playing these deadpan roles. But having so many stupid things happening to them. You got the famous scene with Peter Cushing where everything is backwards. So they shot the scene backwards, but then they played it normally, and it's just weird. There's no reason for it. Or he's looking through a magnifying glass, and he takes the magnifying glass away, and his eye is just massive. So it's not the magnifying glass at all. But the one scene is when Omar Sharif meets up with. I'm assuming is a spy. I think it was a spy, but he's on the corner of a street with like he has like things that he's selling. So he's trying to get the information, and then when someone walks past, the guy that is trying to give him the information says, "Oh, try and smell my flower," and it sprays ink into his face. And he's got all these different tricks that's playing on Omar. And this classic actor Omar Sharif, who Dr. Zhivago and all these different roles, and he's there with like he's got foam on his face, and he's got they've given him a fake cigar that blows up, so his hair's everywhere. And as the guy is walking away, Omar Sharif says, "Oh, you forgot your fake dog poo." "That's not fake dog poo." And just the look on his face, it's just so good. It's such a good.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, it's such a good
I don't think I've seen that since I was in high school, and now it's like, I gotta rewatch that one too. So
the beauty of those movies is that you watch it like 10 times, and then you watch it the 11th time, and there is still stuff in the background that you've missed. There are so many jokes packed in that you miss it. You'll miss something every time. So it's almost like watching it brand new every time because there's something new to look at. It's
and Omar Sharif's such a great serious actor. It's like
it's beautiful. It really
almost like
is.
Olivier acted like a fool. That's classic.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, then your number 8, please, Shannon.
My number 8 is I wrote him down. I'm leaving it, but this one I went back and forth. It's Uncle Buck.
Oh, okay.
1989. My whole list could have been John Hughes, just because I'm a baby of the 80s. But like I said before, I love John Candy. And it was either this or Stripes, this or Stripes, this or Stripes, this or Stripes. And I had to go with Uncle Buck. In the beginning, he's such a buffoon, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll take care of your kids." And there was ulterior motive. It was like, get away from my girlfriend. She's driving me crazy. And in the end, he helps the surly teenager who's such a bitch to him through the whole movie. Macaulay Culkin, I mean, come on, I think that was before.
It was.
I
think
it
before
was, Home Alone. So good. I just think it's a great movie. And then in the end, he's just such a loving uncle, and his brother should feel bad for not having him be part of his life. His girlfriend realizes he's not such a buffoon. He is this sweet guy that I knew that he was. I just love it. And it could be just because I love John Candy so much. I just love the movie Uncle Buck. I think it's a great movie.
Yeah, because they John Candy and Macaulay Culkin do that scene together where it's like quick fire. He's asking him questions.
Yeah.
And then they sort of do a replay of that in Home Alone when he's talking to the cash the lady at the cash registry. But I'm pretty sure it was a before, because that was the kind of movie that I think got Macaulay Culkin the role in Home Alone, I think.
Because I thought, I have to put Home Alone, but I think Home Alone came out in 90.
It did,
so,
yes. Yeah.
So it was like, I can't, because I love the movie Home Alone with Joe Pesci being and Daniel Stern. But it was like, nope, I can't put it on my list because it's not in the decade that we're talking about. But I had to have Uncle Buck. And I mean, John Candy was in a lot of movies in the 80s. He was in
he was in Stripes, wasn't he? He was in Stripes.
He was in Stripes, but I grew up as a military brat, so I love Stripes. And I first saw Stripes when I was probably 11 or 12, so that was my first go-to. But then I watched them both, and it's like, I'm not a huge Bill Murray fan. That'll probably get me kicked out of America, but he was just annoying in the movie. It's in Stripes. It's like, you're not even a nice guy, where the other, what is his name?
Harold Ramis. Harold Ramis, yeah.
Was seriously a nice guy. And
Yeah.
Bill Murray was just there because he was bored.
He was the wisecracking
yeah.
fool, wasn't he, kind of thing.
Yeah. And it kind of got old halfway through the movie. It was like, but I knew, they were going to oversleep and they had to rush to the parade grounds and pass the test. But that Stripes isn't my number 8, but it couldn't have been because, like I said, it was like, so I guess, and John Candy was in Spaceballs too, so he is on my list.
There you go, yeah,
twice. But yeah, I just love Uncle Buck. I think
Uncle Buck
really
is a John Hughes movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I think I've only ever seen it once, and that was like years and years ago. I need to revisit Uncle Buck, I think, because I love John Candy as well.
Yeah,
he's just one of those
I think
guys.
he's a national treasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's one of those ones where you think, God, I wonder what he would have been doing now if he was doing, still alive. But okay, great one, number 8. My number 8 is a movie that was in I've had it in a couple of top 10s before, 1983, and it's Trading Places. Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd, Jamie Lee Curtis again, Denholm Elliott. It is just one of the greatest written comedies ever, and Dan Aykroyd is very, very clever with comedy. Eddie Murphy at his absolute best, I think, and it's an adult movie as well. It's got a bit of nakedness in it, a bit of naughtiness in it, but it's just so clever. Apart from the fact that I have no idea how they earn their money at the end with the buying and the selling and stocks and shares, I've watched that movie God knows how many times, and I still don't understand how they made all their money and how they lost all their money. But I kind of put that aside because it is just a funny revenge movie as well, if you like, at the end.
Yes.
But I would, if you've never seen Trading Places, I don't know whether it would. See, these are the kind of movies that I wish I could get my 22-year-old son to watch to see how he feels. I know how he feels about one of them, which when I get to, I'll get to it. But these kind of movies, I don't know whether they age well or not. I'm not quite sure. But at the same time,
know, but it's such a great movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not on my list, but Eddie Murphy owned the 80s.
Yes.
He was just everywhere. And I have him in here. I have him up on the list. And there were so many movies. It's like Trading Spaces was good. Not Trading Spaces, Trading Places was good. 48 Hours was good. You've got the Beverly Hills Cop. You've got the Coming to America. I mean, he was just everywhere in the 80s. And it was really hard to narrow it down. And I do love the Trading Places, but it's like it was kind of mean, I thought, in a way. And I'm a girl, so it's like,
it was
because it was a bet, right? It's like, I bet this bum can do better than you or something like that, right?
So two old millionaires have a $1 bet to see if these two guys, one guy from the streets and one guy with privilege, could swap places, and one says no, it wouldn't be able to work, and then the other one said yes, it would, and then it's got so many. Personally, for me, it's got moments that if I was to say what they are, it's not funny. But there are certain moments that whenever I see these little snippets of things, just make me piss myself laughing. It just genuinely does. But go and watch it. It is comedy at the highest level. Although I'm with
you though. I tried to get my 25-year-old son to watch it, and he was 24 at the time because he turned 25 on Christmas.
Right.
And I'm like, let's just watch it. And he's like, I don't want to watch it. And I'm like,
right.
But you're gonna like it. And he's like, I don't want to watch it. And I'm like, do you just not want to watch an Eddie Murphy movie? And he's like, no, I just don't want to watch that Eddie Murphy movie.
Oh right.
And I'm like, okay, so maybe if we'd have watched that Eddie Murphy movie instead of the one we did watch, it would have been on here. But the one that we did watch has to be on here because it's so phenomenal. But,
fair enough.
I mean, he's Eddie Murphy. He's just fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, then you're number 7 then, please, Shannon.
All right, my number 7. I don't know. Oh, I just pulled a gray hair out of my head. Sorry about that. I don't know if it's going to count because it's a rom-com. But again, I'm a girl. I was a girl.
It's a comedy.
I'm a woman.
Yeah.
I think it's a comedy. It's When Harry Met Sally
Yeah, of course that's a
from
comedy. Yeah.
1989. I think that question still stands. Can men and women just be friends without wanting to sleep with the other? I think in the movie, Billy Crystal was saying the man will always want to sleep with a woman, but it's 2024. So now I'm saying one of them is going to want to hook up. I don't know if that's true. I'm friends with a lot of guys, but I'm friends with guys that I've slept with. So, not that I've slept with a lot, but like all my exes, I'm still friends with. So I think Billy Crystal might have had a point when he said that. I think the way Meg Ryan's character loosens up and isn't quite so tightly wound at the end of the movie is fantastic. Her faking it scene is just
Thing of legend.
I mean,
yeah,
it is, and I really don't think men can tell. I just think it's a great movie. I think Carrie Fisher and Bruno Kirby,
yeah,
as the best friends are great. I think when she's like, "I'm gonna be 40," and he's like, "In 5 years." I mean, it's just such a great movie.
Yeah,
I love it. I love Rob Reiner, but that was Rob Reiner.
It was.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's like you say, things of the time is that scene when Sally is phoning Carrie Fisher. And then Bruno Kirby is getting a phone call from Billy Crystal, and you think, oh my god, they got phones by the side of the bed, and it's like, where they'd be texting each other now. It'd be,
exactly, or FaceTiming or Snapchatting, or I think it's so great. And then when he comes at the party, and I think it's a great movie.
Yeah.
And she's like, is one of us a dog in this scenario? I love it. I've seen it so many times, and it's when Meg Ryan was at her best. I think in the 80s, she was just the go-to girl for rom-coms. And I love it. I love that movie so much.
I prefer that one way more than things like Sleepless in Seattle or You've Got Mail. It's such a good movie. But that is a good one. And absolutely, that's a comedy. Good. Yeah. When he's when they're driving off to college at the start, and he's eating the grapes, and he spits the grape seeds, and I'll wind the window down, he says. It's so good.
And she was so uptight in that first scene.
Oh my god, like, yeah.
This is the way my life's going to be, and this is who I'm going to marry, and and it was like, your life would just. That's not how life works, Meg. I can't remember the character. Oh, Sally. I can't remember her name. Her name's Sally. Let me guess. His name's Harry. Is that?
I think it was. Yeah.
What a dumbass.
Let me
check
check
then the little
online.
vignettes of the older couples that are like, this is how we met. I have to go watch it again because I just love it so much.
Such a good
movie. A great movie.
Yeah.
So yes, that was my number.
Your number 7. Yes, my number 7. We're going back with a crazy movie from the wild and crazy guy Steve Martin, and it's The Man with Two Brains from 1983. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I think Steve Martin sort of owned the 70s and most of the 80s as well when it came to comedy movies. For me personally, I'm a massive Steve Martin fan, and I could have chosen a couple of his films from this decade, and I may have already chosen a couple of films in my top 10 in this decade. But The Man with Two Brains, I can remember watching this when I was little, and there were certain bits of it I didn't understand because it has a little bit of adult humor on it. And it was also, I was at that age, what was it, 1983? So what was I? I was 14 watching this. Wow. And it was a movie that, like, you could watch with your parents because it was funny, but you saw Kathleen Turner's boob. And as a 14-year-old, that was, where it's not like now, kids, where you can watch porn on your phone at any moment you like. This was like, oh my God, that is a lady's boob. What am I going to do with myself? I thought, oh my God. And Kathleen Turner obviously was one of the hottest women around in sort of like the 80s. But it's Dr. Huffar. That was the name of Steve Martin's character. And he was able to do brain transplants by unscrewing the top of your head and popping the brain in and then screwing it back on. And Kathleen Turner is just this man-eater that is going to try and take all of his money. But it is such a stupid film. But it is so good.
I've seen it.
Have you not seen it? Oh my God.
I've seen The Man Who Wears Plaid. That's him, right?
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Yeah.
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Jerk, but the Jerk wasn't in the 80s.
That was the 70s. Yeah.
Planes, Trains, Automobiles. He was one of the amigos, right?
He was one of the three amigos. That's
yeah,
right.
I don't know how I missed the man with two brains.
Yeah, it is. You have to. It is so stupid in places that you just you can't sort of go into it thinking, okay, this is a comedy, but all of a sudden he'll be in like a castle walled room, and then he'll walk straight through one of the walls because it's made out of polystyrene. It's very close to being like a Mel Brooks kind of movie.
Okay.
Obviously, I think it was Carl Reiner that directed it, and obviously Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks, before Carl Reiner passed away, were greatest of friends. And it's that kind of just madcap, stupid. He falls in love with a brain in a jar. Fred, shut up! I'm working here, Fred. Sorry, the dog's just barked.
Earning your kibble, Fred.
Yes, come on. No, shut up. But yeah, if you're a Steve Martin fan, I would recommend watching it because I can't remember where it made my top 10 Steve Martin films, but it would have been up there and been quite high. So
I mean, it couldn't have been any more stupid than The Jerk, because I mean that is just
it's the same kind of
stupid times two, but it's good.
It's the same kind of thing. Yeah. If you like The Jerk, if you like The Jerk, you'll love Man with Two Brains. And Kathleen Turner
movie with Lily Tomlin. What was the name of?
All of Me.
All of Me.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that. How did I
where
miss
he gets possessed, like she gets into his body kind of thing and takes over half his body. That is really, really good as well. Yeah, thoroughly recommend that one. Okay, so your number 6 then, please.
Okay, so my number 6 is the one I moved from 2. So.
Oh wow! Okay.
It's another John Hughes movie. It was really hard for me to pick because, again, that's when I grew up. It's The Breakfast Club.
Oh, right.
1985. Okay. It could have just as easily been 16 Candles, or Pretty in Pink. But The Breakfast Club, just the 6 of them in that library in detention, so different. We have the jock, we have the burnout, we have the girl that everybody thinks is really weird. Now, I went to a Department of Defense school in Europe, so we didn't have those kind of cliques. We all kind of got along because we were all just dropped in Italy and we were all at the school together. So the burnouts and the jocks and the weird people, that would have been me, were all friendly. So it wasn't this rivalry between them. But to watch that movie, and I mean, Molly Ringwald was the princess of the 80s. Is it a comedy? I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think it's a comedy. He thinks it's more of a teenage angst movie, which it probably is. But when they're, not the janitor, the principal is like, just strolling around. He's in the bathroom, going to the bathroom, and they're off doing whatever they're doing. They're getting high with the poor nerd from, I just think it's a great movie. I'm not as other movies I've gotten really super excited about. This one, I don't know if it just speaks to me. It speaks to my heart. It speaks to the teenager in me. And it's like, for those kids, this was serious. This, their parents are like, it's nothing. But when you're 16, 17, 18, and you're in high school, it's everything, And the part, I don't remember who it was that said it. It might have been Judd Nelson. When you see me in the hall on Monday, you're not going to say hi to me, I'm not going to say hi to you. And Brian, the Michael, I can't think of my base name today, but the one that played the nerd, he's like, well, I'll say hi to you. Well, but don't, because then I'll have to make fun of you. But for that one day, they were a group of friends, and it just makes me cry every time.
I hadn't seen it until about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I couldn't believe. And I watched it, and I couldn't believe it's one of those movies that there are certain scenes that have been just spoofed in pop culture, whether it's Simpsons or I thought, oh my God, that's where that bit comes from. And that's where that bit, and there were so many bits in it that you think, God, that has been in so many different sitcoms and cartoons and animation series that it's iconic with just certain setups and certain scenes. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it as a movie because I hadn't, like I say, I call myself a film fan, and it took me like 50 years. Well, maybe not 50 years. What year did it come out? In 1985, was it?
1985.
1985. So, so like it took me 30 odd years to 40 years maybe to actually sit down and watch it. But I really, really enjoyed it. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, and I think if you're a person of a certain age, which I am, when somebody says The Breakfast Club, it just takes you back to where you were when you saw it. And well, it might be different for you because you saw it 4 years ago.
Yeah. It did. It took me right back to 4 years ago.
I saw it on a videotape in Italy with my friends, and it was just, it takes me right back to that spot. And again, John Hughes at his best, I think. Some may think Ferris Bueller is better, but did John Hughes? I don't know that he directed Ferris Bueller. Did he?
Good question.
I know he wrote it.
I think he did.
Because I was watching the movies that made us on Netflix, and it said they were talking about Home Alone, and they mentioned that he wrote Ferris Bueller in 7 days. I mean, what kind of brain does that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And Ferris Bueller's a good movie, but it's no Breakfast Club.
Yeah, written by John Hughes and directed by John Hughes. Ferris Bueller. Okay. There you go.
Yeah. So that is my number. It was my number 2. It's now my number 6.
Number 6. Okay, my number 6. And the reason that we're doing all of this, I said earlier on, I'm a massive Dom DeLuise fan. And when Dom DeLuise is paired with Burt Reynolds, they are.
It's the Cannonball Run, isn't it?
It's the Cannonball Run.
Sorry.
It is the Cannonball Run, because I was looking everywhere to find that it wasn't on any of the streaming services. It wasn't on any of the. I couldn't find it anywhere. You couldn't buy it on Apple. And then I found there's an app called Pluto TV. And I don't know if you have that over in America. And it's just free TV. And I was just scrolling along because sometimes I'll put Laurel and Hardy on there. I thought, oh, all of a sudden it said the Cannonball Run. I went, you're joking. And I started playing, and I watched, and I put it up onto my big TV. So I transferred it onto my big TV. And I just had the greatest hour and a half I've had for a long, long time. And because you have like the bloopers at the end, which is famous because it's just some of the greatest bloopers you've ever seen. But the movie, again, there's bits of it that you probably won't get away with these days. They might say that it's a little bit racist and all that kind of stuff. But it is such a funny movie. Yes. And I was thinking, if they remade that today, I mean, like, who would play the Burt Reynolds part and who would play the Dom DeLuise part? I kind of feel it'd be like a George Clooney or something would play the Burt Reynolds part, and maybe, I don't know, Zach Galifianakis could maybe play and would they make a movie like that now? Because it'd probably end up costing, I mean, I suppose the nearest thing would maybe be Ocean's 11, where they've brought, or the Avengers, I suppose, they've brought a lot of famous people in. But if you've never seen it, it's just, I just enjoyed the hell out of it, and I thought, I gotta try and do a top 10 where I can at least portray my love, for this movie. That's so
funny, because I was trying to find it. I never thought to look at Pluto, because I wanted to revisit it because I knew I loved it growing up. I thought it was hilarious. Same thing. Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds together are just pure magic.
Yeah.
And all the stars that they had, they were, 70s and 80s stars like Adrienne Barbeau and. But it was, I can't even think of who they could get to play it if they made it today that would compare.
Obviously it wouldn't be the same. But you've got Roger Moore, you've got Jamie Farr's in it, you've got Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. It's
movie perfection.
It is
truly is.
And again, I don't think for if my son went to watch it, he's not going to know who any of these people are, so it's not going to mean anything to them. But people like Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. are legends. I mean, I'll watch on YouTube some of the Jerry Lewis telethon or whatever, because they would roll on stage. Dean Martin would be pissed as a fart. Sorry to bring farts back into it, but they would just go on there. Him and Frank Sinatra would just start singing a song, and it's just. They're legendary, they're legendary entertainers, and to see that, and like I say, for the Patreon subscribers, I'll put in the video playlists the bloopers, the very famous bloopers. I'll shove these bleeds up your nose. These bleeds, it's just it's a
great movie. And again, I was going to put it on my list if I could have revisited it, but since I couldn't rewatch it, it's like it's not making the list.
But there you go. Okay, that was my number 6. Now it's time for this.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Yes, it's quiz time. So what I've got here, Shannon, what I've got here is I've taken the taglines from the posters of some 80s comedy movies. You need to tell me what the comedy movie is. Okay?
Okay.
Here we go. Number 1. One man's struggle to take it easy.
One man's struggle to take it easy. Is it Mr. Mom?
Pop quiz, hot shot.
Wrong button. Sorry. Is that one? It's not. It's Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh man, we just talked about it.
Okay, number 2. The heat is on.
That is Beverly Hills Cop.
It is. Well done. Number 3. He's survived the most hostile and primitive land known to man. Now all he's got to do is make it through a week in New York.
Crocodile Dundee.
Well done. It is. Very good. Okay, number 4. He's hip, he's slick, and he's only 3 months old.
Look Who's Talking.
Yes, she's on fire. She's on fire. Number 5. The world's richest playboy.
I'm gonna say Brewster's Millions, but I'm sure that's wrong.
It was Arthur with
and I love Dudley Moore. I should have known that.
Okay, number 6. Keep an eye out for the funniest movie about growing up ever made.
Big?
No, it was Porky's.
Oh. The only thing I remember from Porky's when he stuck his stick in the
Of course, that's the only bit you remember, Shannon. Of course.
Okay, I drifted off there, but okay.
Number 7. What's slower than a speeding bullet and able to hit tall buildings at a single bound?
Okay, this has to be a spoof movie. Is it The Naked Gun?
It was Airplane.
Oh man! And then you're gonna kick me in the ass when we get closer to the top of this list. I guarantee you.
Number 8. He's crude. He's crass. He's family.
That's Uncle Buck.
That is Uncle Buck. Well done. Number 9. Have you ever had a really big secret?
Is that big?
It is big. Well done. And the last one. Meet the only guy who changes his identity more than his underwear.
Meet the only guy that changes his identity more than his underwear. Is that Coming to America?
It's not. It's Fletch.
Oh
with
man!
Chevy
I
Chase.
just watched the new.
Oh, did you?
Shit. That was pretty good.
Was it good?
With John Hamm.
That's right.
I mean, just looking at John Hamm is enough, but I did pretty good. That useless information rolling around in my head.
60%? You got 60% there. Right. That's not bad. That's a win, I say.
I feel like I'm back in high school. 60%.
Well
you
done.
Don't apply yourself, Shannon. You could have done so much better. Hey, I'm just glad. I was afraid I wouldn't get even one right. So
that was good.
I was pretty happy.
That was good. Very good indeed. Okay, back to the job in hand again. Your number 5 then, please.
Oh, so my number 5 is Michael Keaton again. It's from 1988, and it is Beetlejuice.
Oh. Don't say it again. Oh, you said it again. Okay.
I want him to show up. I love him. He is going to show up sometime this year.
He is. Yes, for the sequel.
Yes, I'm excited to see it. When this movie came out, it was 1988. I just graduated from high school. I graduated in Italy. My dad was in the military. He got transferred immediately after graduation. So I went from Italy to Turkey. I didn't know hardly anybody in Turkey. A friend of mine who was a male friend who I ended up marrying, to go back to Harry Met Sally, divorced him a year later, but we went to see Beetlejuice. And it was a military base theater. There's one option. You don't get any other options. And we were tired of just going out on the town drinking and being stupid. So we decided to go see this movie, and I fell in love with it. Michael Keaton was so good at it. And I know people are like, oh, he's creepy. He was trying to get it with a 15-year-old. Yeah, that is creepy. But in 1988, you didn't see it as creepy. It was just funny, you know. You knew it wasn't real. It was just make believe on a movie screen. I think Winona Ryder was fantastic. The Deo scene.
Yeah.
What more can you say? I just I just think it was such a clever movie. It was such a good idea. I think Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin were fantastic as the newly dead. When they go down and they're waiting, and there's a lady that's cut in half of her smoking, and her legs are crossed. There's a girl that the smoke's coming out of her throat. There's the football team. I just love it. And in the end, Lydia gets to hang out with Beetlejuice and have her part of the house, and her parents get to have the bottom half. I think it's a great movie with the wicked stepmother played by Catherine O'Hara. I just love that movie so much, and I'm so excited for the sequel to come out.
I hope the sequel's good. I mean,
I know.
The track record of like these sequels coming out like years after the first film is not good, but then again, I mean, Tim Burton is coming back, isn't he? And obviously Michael Keaton is back, and I think Winona Ryder is going to be in it as well. Catherine O'Hara, I think, is going to be in it. Yeah, so I think until obviously we see a trailer and stuff, but I am looking forward to it. I love it, Beetlejuice as well, but it didn't make my top 10. But it's one of those.
I think the only thing that didn't age well in that movie is the guy that played her dad, because he ended up being a pedophile or a pedophile.
That's right.
They say in your neck of the woods.
That's right.
But he was in Ferris Bueller too. I think he's just a sketchy guy, and we'll just forget that part of the movie.
That's
and
right.
we'll focus on Beetlejuice wanting to hook up with a 15-year-old.
Yes.
First of all, he's dead, so he's not really an old creepy guy.
No.
And again, that's another one. I don't know that concept could be made today because of that, but it's not real, people. It's a movie, let's just enjoy it for what it was and not tear it apart.
And the thing is, like with like the dad in it, it does, when you do watch it, you do sort of have that little icky feeling, because you think of what he did afterwards. But it's like that with with what's my number 5, you watch that now and you think, so my number 5 is The Naked Gun, 1988. But O.J. Simpson's in it, and you think, oh my God. So as much, and anything with Leslie Nielsen in. Leslie Nielsen to me is a comedy god. He didn't set out to be a comedy god. He was setting out to be a serious actor doing Shakespeare and God knows what. But he, for me, is one of, if not the funniest people I've ever seen on screen, Leslie Nielsen. And it's all because he plays it as deadpan and serious as possible. And as much as the other Naked Gun movies aren't as funny as the original one, they're crammed full of great jokes. But it's the same thing. You watch The Naked Gun, or all of them, because O.J. Simpson's in all of them, I think.
Yes.
And then you sort of go, ooh, that's O.J. Simpson. Oh, God, yeah. Maybe I shouldn't enjoy this movie as much. But then it's completely separate from what he did in his personal life. You look at it, but it's that age-old thing of can you enjoy music from people that are, sketchy, and it's separating the person from their art, and it's a hard thing to do, but I think it's something, especially when it comes to movies, because again, they're made at a different time to when these people have done whatever it is they've done. But,
right. Obviously, if they were putting O.J. Simpson in a movie today, it wouldn't happen.
No.
But nobody could. I mean, nobody would even fathom that he would do that. You know what I mean? And I think Leslie Nielsen is his name Fred Drummond? I know his last name.
Yeah, Frank Drebin.
Frank is he's fantastic.
Yeah.
He is. I like him. You must like him because he always had that fart machine too.
Exactly.
Classically had this fart machine. But I just think he is so funny. And I'm with you. The second, there were 3 of them, right? Were there 3?
There were 3. Yeah. There's
the second and third
2.5. And 33 and a third was the third one, with Anna Nicole Smith was in the third one.
The second 2 weren't as good, but they were still funny.
They were still funny.
I'm with you. You throw Leslie Nielsen in anything,
yeah,
and the movie may suck, but he's going to be fantastic in
Yeah,
it.
that he ended up doing a lot of these spoof movies. He did like a Die Hard spoof movie and a obviously Dracula Dead and Loving It, which was a Mel Brooks spoof movie. Repossessed, which was an Exorcist, and like you say, a lot of them weren't good movies, but there were some real funny bits in them. And it was mainly.
Was he in Reanimated? Was he in that movie? Or Reanimation, I think it was called. For some reason, I want to think he was in it, but maybe not.
He might have done, because I know that he ended up doing a hell of a lot of straight
and the
to
movie
DVD
sucked.
stuff. Yeah, but he was always great in it.
He was fantastic. I loved him so much.
Yeah, and on the video playlist for our Patreon Top Heads, I will put some of the bits where he had the fart machine. When he'd go to he'd be doing an interview with somebody and he'd say something very dry. All of a sudden there'd be a fart, and then he'd be like, everyone would be like going, what just happened there? And he'd be just completely straight faced, as if, what you laughing at? What you laughing at?
Yeah, what is so funny? What is going on? Yeah, but I know when I showed my son, or when I didn't show it to him, but we watched The Naked Gun, and he's like, "Is that O.J. Simpson?" And I'm like, "It is." Yeah. But this is long before that happened, and I can separate. Like, I still like J.K. Rowling. I know I probably shouldn't. I like her books. I don't know that I like her personally, but her books I love.
Yeah,
and
you imagine what the kids must think of us. They say, "My God, what did you used to watch when you were younger? Because you're watching murderers and pedophiles, and that's all you used to watch. I mean, God, no wonder everyone's fucked up
and racist. You're watching movies with racism in them. It's like,
but it's a different
Gen
time.
X guys are just like, we're just like, leave us alone.
Yeah,
quit bitching about everything and leave us alone. Let us watch our movies. Let us listen to our music and just fuck off and leave us alone. Don't
USA.
Exactly. Don't drag us into your pity parties and making everything bad. I mean, and the world is bad. America is a trash can on fire right now.
Don't worry, we're a trash can right next to you in the UK, so don't worry. It's but everywhere's like that. And the thing, like you say, the thing is the world. If everybody just watched the news, it would just be. I mean, everybody would just give up. I'm pretty sure they would.
Yeah.
So again, like say, watching for me something like the Cannonball Run, it takes me back to when I was 12, 13, 14, and everything seemed a lot more simpler. And I know that there were obviously there's always things going on in the world. Doesn't matter what year. I can't remember what I was watching. I was watching something from the 70s, and they were complaining about unemployment, about the fact that nobody's getting pay rises. And I thought, well, nothing's changed. It's the same.
Nothing has changed.
Every decade, it's the same. There's wars, people aren't getting paid enough, and the governments are screwing the normal people over. It happens every generation. It's just got different skin skin on the bones,
Yeah.
So just enjoy what you like, and don't hurt anybody, and then everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Agreed. I 100% agree.
There you go. Okay, your number 4 then, please, Shannon.
So my number 4 is Coming to America.
Okay, I thought that might be your Eddie Murphy one.
Yes. I just him doing all those parts alone is just when I hate to keep bringing up my son, but I was like, let's watch Trading Places, and he's like, I don't want to watch Trading Places. I'm like, all right, well, you can pick between 48 Hours, Beverly Hills Cop, Coming to America. And he's like, let's watch Coming to America. And I didn't tell him that Eddie played all the parts until the very end. At the end, he's like, he was the Jewish guy? And I'm like, he was the Jewish guy. And he's like, well, that couldn't happen today because they would say a Jewish guy should play the Jewish guy.
Exactly.
And I haven't seen the second one. I don't know that I want to, because the first one is just perfection in my eyes. I don't know that I want it ruined by seeing the second one and being disappointed.
I think I watched the second one and I honestly can't remember anything about it.
Really?
Yeah, that's kind of
so sad.
It was like that was kind of like just one of those movies that I watched it, and then like a week later I thought, oh, I need to watch Coming to America too. Oh no, I have watched it. So
no!
there was nothing in it that stayed with me at all. So I was,
that's so sad.
Yeah, and the first one obviously has got the two brothers in it from Trading Places.
Yes.
Just that
I was going to mention
little
that.
the little cameo in there.
I'll ruin one of my shows, but in the end, they're like, "Oh, look at this! They gave us all this money."
Yeah, we're back, Mortimer, we're back.
Yeah, yeah. That's so sad about the second one. I'm glad I haven't watched it then because the first one was it. And why come back to it?
Well, this is what I was saying about Beetlejuice. It's like it's been so long. What's the reason to come back to it? And it needs to be really good. Yeah, well, money is the thing, isn't it? Money is the thing.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just not worth it. It's not worth ruining the perfection that was Coming to America by doing it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't watch it. I'm not going to. But there's supposed to be another Beverly Hills Cop coming out too. I don't know if it's this year or next year. Is that going to be
I don't know, because I saw the trailer. I saw the trailer for it, and I'm not sure. Is it a movie or is it a TV series? I'm not quite sure.
I thought it was a movie.
Is it a movie?
Maybe for Prime, maybe for one of the streaming services. Oh, Fred, what's the matter?
What is wrong with you? Hey, he's had all his treats, you see. That's what it is. Just stay there. Okay, we're at number 4. So stop.
We're almost there, Fred.
We're almost there. Okay, my number 4. Now, this brings in one of my loves, Steve Martin. One of your loves, John Candy, for Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. This movie has absolutely everything as far as I'm concerned. It's got stupid comedy. It's got really clever comedy. It's got heart. It'll make you cry. It is... it's a Thanksgiving movie, isn't it? It's not a Christmas movie. It's a Thanksgiving movie. Right. But it's... Steve Martin is the uptight one in this. John Candy is the one that... I always feel like I can always relate to John Candy in this. Is like you just want everybody to like you, don't you? And you'll do what you can, be nice to everybody, and then hopefully everybody be nice to you. Right. And it's got an amazing soundtrack. I remember I bought the soundtrack. There's a song by the Dream Academy, which is the music at the end when Steve Martin realizes that John Candy has been basically telling him pork pies all through the thing, and that his wife, spoilers, that his wife has died and that he's on his own, and that's the music that's playing, and it is just a beautiful movie, and it is so it always gets me at the end. It always makes me cry at the end, but it is so funny. There are some great moments in there. Steve Martin going off on his I want a fucking car and I want it fucking now, and 4 fucking wheels and a seat. And he loses it at the counter. It's such a great movie.
Yeah, that is a good movie. It's not on my list, I think, because Steve Martin is so unlikable for so much of the movie, and I like him so much.
Yeah.
It's like I love John Candy, but I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
He definitely sort of played against type a little bit. He was more Steve Martin was more the straight man in that, whereas he's normally the laughs are coming from him.
Yeah.
Which was a nice little change. But that's good. Okay, your number 3 then, please, Shannon.
So my number 3 is Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, okay.
1984. Again, Eddie Murphy owned the 80s, I think. Again, it was hard. It could have been 48 Hours. It could have been Trading Places. It was Beverly Hills Cop. I could talk myself out of it right now because I liked 48 Hours so much. I think in the end, I liked Judge Reinhold a little bit better as a co-star than I did Nick Nolte. But God, that's a good movie, 48 Hours. But yeah, I love 48. Just rewatch Beverly Hills Cop. He will always be Axel Foley to me. I just when you played in the beginning, it's like I got thrown out of a window and you're arresting me. What are you doing? I had forgotten so much of the movie. Like I'd forgotten that his friend got killed and that's how he ended up in Beverly Hills. Just a great movie.
Yeah.
It's just a great movie.
Perfect vehicle for someone like Eddie Murphy in it, because he can just riff. He can just go off and do that Eddie Murphy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he's so good at it.
He was still so young. He was like, what, 23, 24?
Yeah, something
but
like that.
when you think he was 19 when he signed for Saturday Night Live, it's like, and his Raw and
Delirious.
I forget the other one. They are filthy. I mean, they're so filthy and so homophobic. But in the 80s, they were hilarious.
That's what it was.
Just funny.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's
went to the
I got
cinema.
some ice cream. I mean, people still quote it. People of a certain age.
Yeah. I went to the cinema to see. I went to the cinema to see Raw. Yeah,
really?
yeah, and it was crazy because I'd never seen like a stand-up comedy thing up on a big screen before, and it was just really strange. But like you say, it was filthy. It was so like un-PC. It was just but it was so funny. So funny.
Well, that's like there's one part of Beverly Hills Cop where they're on Rodeo Drive and he sees these guys walking by and these 100% leather outfits, and he's like, oh, it's like, dude, that's what you're wearing in your stand-up.
That's right. Yeah.
Literally, that's what you were wearing.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny.
Like the red leather. Yeah, the red leather one with like with the yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And I don't know if that was a nod to the Delirious.
I'm sure.
And one of them had on red, and the other one he had on purple.
Yeah.
I just think Beverly Hills Cop is a great movie, and I like the second one. There were only two? Or was there a third?
There was three. There was three.
Oh, then I don't think I've ever seen the third one.
But again, they had the diminished sort of quality as they went on. Yeah.
So when I saw the previews for I think it is a movie for streaming, I kind of got excited and I kind of got, oh, is it going to be any good? Because I don't want to ruin the crush I have on the first one, because the first one will always be my favorite.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's a good one. My number 3, apart from Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise as a duo in the 80s that were like my favourites, Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder were also massive favourites of mine, and Stir Crazy from 1980. It just crept in there, but one of the greatest comedy films ever. Gene Wilder, hero of mine. Richard Pryor, them two together. Silver Streak, I think, was the first movie they did together.
Is perfection.
Is
when
fantastic.
He's walking out with it.
That's right.
I love Silver Streak so
good.
much.
But Stir Crazy has so many moments in it where it is just so funny when they've been sent to prison for a crime they didn't commit. And they end up having to work all day, and Richard Pryor is trying to get into bed to get to his pillow because every like sinew of his body is aching, and he's going pillow, and he's trying to get it. It's just hilarious. And Richard and like I say, Gene Wilder is just, I don't think I've ever seen Gene Wilder do anything bad.
He can do no wrong.
Fantastic in everything.
Yeah.
Such a good, and it's a prison break movie in the end. It's kind of sort of like and because it also becomes a sports movie because there's a rodeo. He's a rodeo in a rodeo competition and all that kind of stuff. It's just great. And if you ever get a chance to see it, I'm not sure again if you can see it anywhere online, but watch it because it's just class.
Yeah, I do remember watching it. It's a good movie.
Good. Okay,
it's no Silver Streak, but it is a good movie.
Yeah, and then they did See No Evil, Hear No Evil. And then they did another one called, I think, Another You or something, which was terrible because Richard Pryor was really ill and really thin, and it wasn't a good movie at all. But See No Evil, Hear No Evil's got some good moments in it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, your number 2 then, please, Shannon.
So my number 2, once you hear me gush about it, you're going to wonder why it's not my number 1. But my number 2 is Big from 1988.
Okay.
I just rewatched it right before this show because I don't remember what top 10 you guys were doing, but you were talking about how problematic it is with the whole Susan and Josh having sex. And I'm going to state, I will. This is a hill I'm willing to die on. Josh was 30 when they had sex. He was not 13. Mentally, he was a 13-year-old, but Susan didn't know, and she was in love with him. And
that's fair enough.
I will fight for Susan, even though she was a complete bitch in the beginning. I love Mercedes Rule as the mother. I love the best friend character, Billy, who dropped everything when Josh needed him once he convinced him that he was indeed Josh. I love that Billy called him on his shit at the end when it's like, I'm your best friend. What's more important than that? And it's like, here's the list. Do what you want with it. I think Tom Hanks was fantastic. You really believed he woke up that morning and was a grown up. When he looked down his pants, I thought was hilarious because what boy wouldn't? I think it's such a great movie. I think he just was such a kid in it. He's such a great actor to begin with, but this was early on, and this was not too long after Bosom Buddies. Splash, another one that could have been in my movie because I love Tom Hanks so much. And again, Elizabeth Perkins playing Susan. I think she was so great at looking. Oh, hello.
Sorry, I have to bring it.
That's okay.
He's just.
She was so confused by him, and then when she realizes that he is indeed, what he was saying is, "I'm a kid." He really is a kid, and the look on her face of, I get it. Everything makes sense now. The jumping on the trampoline, the giving her the ring at the end of the night, him turning the light back on when she takes her shirt off because these are the first boobs that he's ever seen. I just, and then at the end there's that song they play, and I know it is a John Denver Christmas song, but the one that goes do 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 makes me cry every time. It was my number 6, but after rewatching it, it's like, it's gotta go. I gotta move it up to number 2 because I just love it so much. And you're gonna ask, why isn't it my number 1? Because my number 1's been my number 1 since I saw it, and it has to be my number 1. But Big, I adore Big.
I think that whole thing that you were saying, I think he's obviously he's got the body of a 30-year-old, but the mind of a 13-year-old, doesn't he? Because like when she finds out, she goes, "Oh, that makes sense." As if, like, obviously he didn't know either. He couldn't do anything at all, or he didn't last very long. That's probably the thing.
But that's what I thought. It's like, you couldn't have gotten anything out of it because he had no idea what to do with a female body. Exactly. You know what I mean? I just think it's so fantastic. I love it so much.
Yeah,
I may watch it again when we get up here because and John Hurd played such a douchebag. I mean, it's like, oh god, it's just a great movie. I love it so much.
It didn't make my top 10, but you're absolutely right. It's one of those movies. The whole piano scene, the scenes in the toy store, so many iconic scenes in that movie. But yeah, it didn't make my top 10, unfortunately. But
well, I just saw a thing with him. He was with Hannah Waddingham. It was like a conversation with her. I don't know if she has a show in England, but they were talking about it. And he's talking specifically about the piano scene.
Oh, right.
And he said, you see at the end of it, I kind of like rearranged my pants. He said, my pants were so tight, my package was just wedged up in my body. And it was so funny because you don't really hear Tom Hanks. You know, he's such a clean cut kind of guy. It was, and he said, you can see me rearrange my pants at the end. And when I watched it, it's like, wow, you really can. Because he's like, it was just, my pants were so tight. It's like,
I'm gonna have to watch it again now just to see that bit. Okay.
See that, it's on Disney Plus.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah,
and if I can, I'll put that scene in the video playlist for our Patreon subscribers. There you go.
I can't believe we haven't had any dupes. None of mine have been on yours, and none of yours.
You know what?
Mine,
I've got a funny feeling that our number 1 might be the same. I've got a funny feeling. I might be wrong, but we'll see.
I think so too. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is National Lampoon's Vacation from 1983.
That's a good one.
Chevy Chase again. I think anything he does is funny, whether he means it to or not. I think by the sounds of it, he's a little bit of a douchebag now, but there you go. A
knob, as you guys would say.
Yeah, a knob. Yeah, he's a bit of a knob. But National Lampoon's Vacation. I mean, I could have gone for European Vacation as well, and Christmas Vacation is this decade as well. But I wanted to separate that into the Christmas movies and just have National Lampoon's Vacation. I could never understand why they never had the same kids in all the movies.
It's so funny.
I mean, they're the same names, but they never had the same actors in any of the 4 or 5 vacation movies they did. But this one, when they're off to Wally World, John Candy again. He's the security guard at Wally World at the end. It's just so funny. Eugene Levy at the end is at the start is the guy that sells him the car. When you drive it, if you hate it now, wait till you drive it, he says. It's this terror. He doesn't know where to put the petrol, where to put the gas, and it's just hilarious. And the fact that he says, "Oh, come on, we're going to have a look at the route," and gets out this old computer, is where they're just playing, I don't know what they're playing, Asteroids or something on it. Oh, it's just so good. But is it 1983?
I think so. I think
It's
so.
40
It is a
years
great
ago.
movie.
It is so good.
Yeah.
And it started, Beverly D'Angelo is great as well. And I think Bill Murray's brother, Brian Doyle
Plays his
Murray,
boss, right?
he's the boss in Christmas Vacation.
Oh, okay.
He plays the watermelon munching guy when they go and they find this place to stay, and it's got a pool. And then they get to the pool and there's ducks floating on it and all kinds of crap on the top. And he's the guy that books them in.
Oh, okay.
In that bit,
and that's the one where the grandmother dies, right? They
that's
put her
right.
on the back.
On the back.
It is funny. It is a funny movie.
It's just so good. Anyway, before we reveal our number ones, would you like to give us your rundown from 10 to 2, and then I'll do the same.
Okay, so number 10, I have Spaceballs. Number 9 is Johnny Dangerously. Number 8 is Uncle Buck. Number 9, I'm going backward. Number 7 is When Harry Met Sally. Number 6 is The Breakfast Club. Number 5 is Beetlejuice. I won't say it a third time.
Nope.
Number 4, Coming to America. Number 3, Beverly Hills Cop. Number 2 is Big.
Wonderful. And mine is number 10, A Fish Called Wanda. 9, Top Secret. 8, Trading Places. 7, The Man with Two Brains. 6, The Cannonball Run. 5, The Naked Gun. 4, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. 3, Stir Crazy. And 2, National Lampoon's Vacation. So, Shannon, what is your number 1 comedy movie of the 80s?
So my number 1 comedy movie of the 80s is from 1980. And it is Airplane.
Yes, that's my number 1 as well.
It is just movie perfection. I loved it when I saw it when I was 10 years old, and I love it at 54. I think Lloyd Bridges acting like such a goofball. Today was the wrong day to quit sniffing glue. Today was the wrong day to quit drinking beer. I just, and then Don't Call Me Shirley. I still say it to this day.
Yeah.
I think Leslie Nielsen is a comedy genius.
Yeah.
I think I can't think of the guy's name that played Stryker. His name is Robert
Hayes.
Robert Hayes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. In the beginning, the autopilot, just all of it. It's another one. Every time you watch it, it's like, holy shit, I've seen this movie 20 times. How did I not pick up on that?
Exactly.
The jive talking. It is just a perfect movie to me. It is, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's stupid comedy. And I knew my child was my child when he loved it the first time he saw it without any nudging from me. It is absolutely a perfect movie.
Yeah. And for me, exactly the same thing with my son. Is my son watched this and found it hilarious.
Yes.
And I thought it's the kind of movie I think that transcends time. People will just find this comedy movie funny. And again, there might be some bits in it that are a little bit un-PC or whatever, but funny comedy is funny comedy as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. And I think this was in my top 10 greatest movies of all time because it is a perfect movie. And completely agree with what you say. I don't know how many times I've watched this movie. I'll still find something in the background or to the sides that I haven't seen before that will make me laugh. And I don't think there's another movie that's got so many jokes crammed in like per minute or per second than Airplane. I think they just absolutely got that one 100% right. And it's just got so many great moments in it that you couldn't even.
And I think I
all.
laugh just as hard now as I did the first time I saw it. It's not one that you get immune to the laughter.
I completely agree.
It's just funny. I still picture that pilot popping up with that grin on his face after she blows him up.
Yes.
And the guitar and the sick girl and
and when Stryker's going round to each person and telling his story, and they're all committing suicide in different ways, and the old woman's about to start throwing up, and
yes, the sweat dripping down. It's just a perfect movie.
It is.
I mean, it was in 1980. So it's how old now?
Yeah, so it's 44 years old.
44 years. And it's just as good now, is it? And I think people, if I find out somebody doesn't like the movie Airplane, I kind of look at them like, what's wrong with you?
There's something wrong.
I get it. You don't like any of the others, But Airplane, how do you not like Airplane?
Yeah. There you go. We had one the same, and it was
and the one that matters.
It was the one that matters.
We finished together. Ding, 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 ding.
Hey, hang on. Let me get my way, Fred. I need to ding that. We've got a few honourable mentions. Let me just whiz through these. So at Who Takes Socks Off says probably Aeroplane, Ferris Bueller, Police Academy, and Blues Brothers. Erin Peterson said Top Secret with Val Kilmer all day. Janine Bender says Splash. Kareem Pastor said 1980s Caddyshack. Jennifer Morgan Hookham says When Harry Met Sally. Kim Thomas Simon said Airplane, so damn funny, groundbreaking, and you sure couldn't make that movie today. Nikki Dennis, Overboard, Trading Places, Coming to America, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Beetlejuice. Cindy Truman Bush said my personal favourite from later in the 80s is Erasing Arizona, Airplane, Vacation, Caddyshack, all hysterical. And John Nichols said Caddyshack, Vacation, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Trading Places, and Fletch.
There were so many. There were so many in the 80s.
We could easily.
I mean, neither one of us had Back to the Future. I mean, which is a great movie.
Ghostbusters, which is a great movie. There's so many. But
I wonder what Neil's number one would have been.
I'm pretty sure it would have been Airplane. We would have
had a three-way.
We would have had an absolute. What a way to have a three-way. Yeah, what a way to have a three-way. That's it, though. We're done. We've got it done. And let me just, I was going to say all the bits, but just go onto the show notes. If you want to get in touch with us on social media, email us. If you want to become a Patreon top head like the lovely, lovely Shannon here, and you could be sitting, well, not in her place, I mean, not at her home, you could be sitting here with me virtually doing your own episode if you wanted to come and support our podcast. All the information for all of that stuff, merch, just go to the show notes and it's all there. Shannon, you've been an absolute delight.
Thank you. It has been a wonderful afternoon. I have had such a great time. I don't know why I was nervous. You made me so comfortable from the off.
Well, that's all that matters. And you'll come back again?
Weird Al.
We'll sort that out, Weird Al.
Or Top 80s Part 2.
Maybe we'll do that. Yeah, because I'm sure the top 10, I mean, apart from my number ones, our top 10 could all be completely different. We could choose a whole new.
In 2 hours, it'll be completely different. Because I'm going to go watch A Fish Called Wanda as soon as I hang up with you.
And there you go. So, everybody, thank you very much once again, Shannon. Thank you so much for your support as well. It means the absolute world to us. It literally keeps our lights on. So, thank you. And that's it for another episode. So, thank you very much again to Shannon. Neil, look after yourself. And let's go start the countdown.